Now that Watches and Wonders 2026 is officially wrapped up, I wanted to hop on here and share with you my favorite releases from the show this year. Specifically, I'm going to share with you what caught my eye and then also maybe some of the releases that I thought didn't really hit the mark. My absolute favorite release from this year's Watches and Wonders has to be the JLC, the Master Control Chronomètre, but the power date variant. I really like the subdials at the 3 and 9 hour markers. I think that balances that watch out perfectly. I love the fact that it's thin, the integrated bracelet. I love the fact that it's mostly brushed, but then you do have some detail areas that have been polished. But for the most part, I really think that between it being thin, I'm a sucker for a blue dial, and the fact that it's like a bluish grayish dial depending on where the light hits it. That, and then the fact that the bracelet should be able to hide scratches pretty well, I think makes it, for me at least, this year's watch that won Watches and Wonders. Next up, I wanted to talk about IWC. So this year, I didn't really see anything that caught my eye that I'd want to go out and purchase, but I actually got to go into my IWC boutique and I got hands-on with the Perpetual Calendar, the new pilot chronograph in 42. It's not a watch that I would ever buy at like $38,000, but it was pretty crazy to me that they were able to stuff a Perpetual Calendar into what is about the size of a case of the normal pilot's chrono, given that that one has I believe a 46 hour power reserve, and the Perpetual Calendar with all of its complications has a 60-hour power reserve. I think that for me, IWC has to do better on the pilot's chrono, given the fact that they were able to do that with the Perpetual Calendar. Fun fact, I've never played with a Perpetual Calendar before, and the sales associate that helps me out when I go in, he was actually telling me that this new Pro Set model that they released this year, it's the first Perpetual Calendar in their lineup, in IWC's lineup, that if you actually set it ahead, so maybe you fat finger it and you go into 2027, 2028, there was no way of turning the clock back without sending the watch in. So you're spending almost 40 grand on a watch. And if you go over a little bit in setting the whole Perpetual Calendar subdials, if you went over, you'd have to send it into IWC and get it serviced. So for me, I thought that was pretty crazy that you could spend that much money on a watch and have to go ahead and get it serviced if you messed up. But I guess now if you have $38,000 to spend, that's not a problem anymore. On the Ingenieur front, I didn't get to see this in person, but the new model that they released in that dark olive green ceramic that I saw online, I thought that watch looks really nice, although I don't want to spend that kind of money. I think if they were to release that really dark olive dial with those gold accents, so it's almost like a darker version of the Sunny Haze watch from the F1 movie, I think that would look really nice in the stainless steel variant, but who knows if they'll actually do that. And then lastly, I did get some hands-on time with the new Petite Prince editions. Nothing really caught my eye because they were very subtle. My boutique did have the gold version of the Pilot Mark 20. And the thing that stood out to me was they actually had applied numerals that really made the dial pop. And I'm hoping that in the next Mark 21, 22, whatever they call it, that they at least offer a stainless steel version that has those applied numerals, because to me, it just made the watch look that much more elevated. But that was one thing where I was like, ooh, if they could do that in a stainless steel blue, not gold, that would be, I think that would make that watch for me. And last up on the IWC front, I know that they released the Venture watch that was essentially made for use on the vast space exploration, space station work that they're doing. I thought that it was really cool and innovative the way that you can actually set the time, because it's very different than what you normally have where you pull out the crown and then you have to set the time that way. So I will give IWC marks on being innovative and coming out with a new way of setting watches. But for me, that watch definitely wasn't a looker, and it's not something that, even if they made it less expensive, I don't think it's something that I would pick up. But I will give them kudos on, you know, innovating a new way of setting the time, given that, like, for if you're up in space, you have those big space gloves on and you need a better way of changing the time than just using the standard crown mechanism. The next watches that I'm really excited about were actually released by Cartier. So the Roadster, I've seen them on Chrono 24, but I've never actually seen one in person. So the unique case shape is something that really stuck out to me, because I'm used to seeing Santos and tanks most places, but I've never seen someone wearing a Roadster. And given that unique case shape, I thought it was interesting that they'd choose to release that. So that's one that I definitely want to try on and see how that fits on the wrist. The only thing is that crown with the cabochon that sticks out. It might be too big, but we'll see how it actually wears in the metal. And then I really liked the new Santos-Dumont, the mesh link bracelet, if that's what it's called. I really like a good bracelet on any watch I buy. So the fact that you can get a Dumont now with a bracelet, I think is awesome. The only problem is that right now they just released it in the platinum and yellow gold models of the Dumont. So I'm hoping as the year progresses, or maybe next year, they bring that bracelet down to the normal stainless steel Dumonts, because I think, for me at least, the Dumont, just the proportions of it, I think look a little nicer than the, like, we'll say Santos large. And I think the Dumont is a little more, looks a little dressier, and I just like that case shape overall better. And sticking with that square shape, the other watch that I really liked was the new Tag Heuer, the Monaco chronograph that they released. It's a nod back to the Steve McQueen version with the flat blue dial and then the white subdials. I really like that watch. So the fact that they have re-released it is awesome, and it's in titanium now. I had actually just been looking at Monaco's about a month ago, and I love the titanium, how it just makes it feel like you're not wearing a watch. So the fact that you can get something that's like a nod back to their earlier history, I think was a really good move on Tag Heuer's part. But at like $9,000, $10,000, I think that's one that I probably would, if I could find one pre-owned, that's probably what I'd do. But definitely happy that Tag Heuer is on this trend of kind of looking back in their history and then bringing back, or like modernizing some of their lineup. So that's something that I was really excited about, and happy that the Monaco line is, you know, keeps getting skeletons and just more enhancements to that lineup in general. And then sort of again on the unique case shapes, I did get to try on the new Panerais. So they had the traditional like brown Panerai that just got announced in 44, and then the left-hand drive in blue. At 44, these looked completely ridiculous on my wrist, and it's not something that I would ever buy. But I still wanted hands-on time with them, because for whatever reason, I have it in my mind that I really want a Panerai at some point. So it was cool to see them, and that Panerai keeps making, you know, updates to their lineups. But the one that I really liked that I unfortunately didn't get to see in person was the 8 Journey. I really like the Brunito finishing on that case, where they apply a black PVD coating and then they start taking it off to give it like a weathered tool watch look. So if they could do that sort of finishing on a 40 millimeter, that's, I think, the watch that I would, or the Panerai that I would ultimately end up getting. Now I'm gonna wrap up with Tudor, as that's the watch brand that I was most looking forward towards at Watches and Wonders, given that they're celebrating their 100 years. I thought their releases were okay, given that they are celebrating that 100 years, and sort of what was rumored definitely had me excited. The fact that none of what I wanted came out was a letdown, but I did get some hands-on time with some of their new releases. So first up, the Monarch. I didn't like it in the press release, but having tried it on and seeing it in the metal, the bracelet I thought was really well finished and super comfortable. I really liked the angular case shape. The only thing that sort of killed it for me was that gold or dark champagne dial. I think if they come out with other colors, like maybe a white to go on those like darker, like non-loomed numerals, I think that would be really nice and would pop pretty well. So the Monarch definitely grew on me in person, but I don't think I'd buy it just given the one dark champagne dial option. The next one, I've never been a fan of the Tudor Royal. It's always been something that I know is there, but I never have tried it on. I actually got to try on the 40 millimeter, the new green and the blue variants. So getting to actually try those on, the bracelet was super comfortable. I have a T-Fit clasp on right now. So getting to have that updated bracelet, have an all updated in-house movement, the day and the date for like right around $3,000, I think, or $3,500. That to me is a really good value of a watch. And I'd actually consider, if I didn't have a Tudor already, with like a 5-link bracelet on, I'd actually consider getting the Royal over the Black Bay 1, just because I think it's a little more interesting, or if you're wanting something a little dressier. I think those new colorways that they released, and I got to see the ice blue in the smaller version, I think those were really good and compelling watches for Tudor to release, and I'm glad that they actually did something to that lineup if they're going to keep it. So I definitely did like that Royal that I did get to try on. Lastly, I did get to see the Black Bay 54 in the blue. Maybe it was me, but I did see that Reddit comment where people mentioned that it's like an Invicta type of blue. And so I think once you see that and you know what blue they're talking about, having seen Invicta watches, I think it's hard for you to get that out of your head. So it's not my favorite blue. I've had a Black Bay 58 in blue that I sold a few years back, but that blue I thought was super well executed. I like the blue that they use in Pelagos, but this blue, for whatever reason, I think was just a little too flashy, and I can't get that Invicta reference out of my head. So I think that one they should have done like a flat blue, or like even borrowed the Black Bay 58 blue that they discontinued. They should have just gone with that, and I think that would have been a way bigger hit than the blue that they use right now. I know there's other watch brands like Moser, Vacheron, Patek, Audemars, but for me, as much as I like the Vacheron Overseas, the Cardinal series, that's something that is just, I don't think I'd ever have the budget to afford that watch, or even want to have something that expensive on my wrist. So that was one release that I liked. The Moser with the Reebok collab, that was interesting and looks different. But again, that watch is out of my price range. So there were watches from those brands that I liked, but given that they're priced way out of what I would want to spend on a watch, that's just something that I'll keep to myself. But I wanted to share releases that I thought were interesting, and maybe some of those that are like out of my price range that I wish they would take certain elements from those and bring those down. So yeah, let me know if you had any favorites from Watches and Wonders, what your overall thoughts were, what you'd like to see videos on. And yeah, thank you for watching. And if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content.